You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the House of Sunny podcast. We've been offline for about a month. I've actually had some health issues resurface as usual, but also Doug is back. Dougie Fresh, what's up?
I am indeed back. Wow. I'm sure everybody missed me. It was a big hole in everyone's life.
You know, you say that like you're joking, but I got a lot of emails. Like, I hope Doug is okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah. People were concerned that you had just sort of stepped off suddenly, and I'm like, he's just taking a break.
Yeah.
So we're going to hear from you. You were in a Trump parade, and we're definitely going to get to that today because
there's a 10% chance I have COVID right now.
That's right. 10%
I have a bad
chance?
Right.
Right.
So I'm giving it a 10% chance. So
only
you'll
10%?
hear me a little hacky and coffee, but I'm going to try and keep it to a minimum so I don't annoy you.
All right. We are going to talk today. One of the high-level objectivist intellectuals dropped a bit of a bombshell on Facebook yesterday, and everybody's talking about it. And it's basically his endorsement of, I wouldn't call it that, but there's a group of objectivists, a lot of them at the very tippy top of the Objectivist Movement associated with the Ayn Rand Institute, who are advocating voting for Joe Biden. And we're just going to talk about that and go over some of their arguments. It's not just Harry Binswanger, who is the objectivist intellectual who did this posting yesterday, but Peter Schwartz, another objectivist intellectual, like a week or two ago, made a similar posting. And there's just been a lot of that. You know, Yaron Baruch regularly on his podcast also endorses Joe Biden, and so there's a lot of Joe Biden support among objectivists, and Doug and I are firmly against that, and we are going to talk about it because we think it's insane. So we're going to go through that, but first, I want to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her call for every Democrat to be radicalized as if they're not already.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, we have a royal report.
Now it's time for the House of Sunny's Royal Watch.
That's the old one. I'll have to dig out the new one for the edit. Make sure you guys get the new one because that one's way too short. And you know where it goes. Or maybe that's the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I think you're thinking
I'm thinking the conspiracy theory. Raul. I think you and I we're the only ones laughing about that conspiracy theory Raul thing. That makes me laugh so hard I'm going to pee my pants. I don't think people get that. And the guy who made it obviously does too. So it's the three of us laughing about that for no reason. Everyone's like, what's so funny?
I laugh every time.
I do too.
Royal Watch. What do you got going on with these clowns?
Time Magazine put out a video that they made with Meghan and Harry, and I'm just gonna play it for you here. We're gonna. Oh, first I got to get a commercial. Dang it! So it's caused some controversy because they basically taking a pretty clear political stand, and you know royals aren't supposed to do that. So They think if they just don't say Biden, that we won't imagine that they're, actually supporting Biden.
Yeah, right.
But also, I just want to play this because I just cannot stand these people. And I don't understand when people watch this and they watch Harry and Meghan and they watch Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like we talk about people who have TDS. I have that for these people. I cannot watch these people without just wanting to vomit. They just are so... Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not a fake, but Harry and Meghan are phonies in the highest degree. Their language is this kind of fake corporate speak that I've come to just find offensive. it is so unnatural and like so full of buzzwords and platitudes, and it's Silicon Valley, you know, big corporate, just
yes.
weird.
We need space for people to protest, and we need a dialogue, and we have to have a conversation. Like all these buzzwords that get around what they're really trying to say, which is we hate fucking Trump.
Right.
We hate most of America, and we want to kill you.
Well,
that's what they're really saying.
I don't even need to play the video for you.
Privilege.
You just summarized the video. How did you know, Doug?
I don't know. I just had a inkling that they might go.
It's only a 2-minute video, but we're just going to pick it apart here for 5 minutes because I can't stand it.
Years ago, in recognition of their growing global influence,
growing global influence,
were named to the Time 100.
Thank you, Time, for including us in this very special evening. And congratulations to this year's Transformative Leaders and Change Makers.
Transformative Leaders and Change Makers. What is that?
God.
Right?
As if transformative and change is...
always good.
Always good, no matter what.
Yeah. We're going to that is a Marxist because they're going to, it's all about change and transformation. But I like freedom. I don't want to change freedom. What the hell?
Transform to what?
You work tirelessly to create a better world, a better global community.
And then this pandering. You work tirelessly. Who works tirelessly? Who are they talking to? Like the average Joe sitting behind their computer with an extra 30 pounds? No.
And what specifically made it, what does it mean to be better?
Right. It's all just empty.
To the Time 100.
Let's go back again here.
Thank you, Time, for including us in this very special evening. And congratulations to this year's Transformative Leaders and Change Makers. You work tirelessly to create a better world, a better global community for all of us. And we thank you and celebrate you tonight.
You're playing a critical role for our future and that of our children. Seeing our world through the lens of community is so important.
Seeing the world through the lens of community is so important. How Marxist can you get?
Lens. That's another one.
The lens of community. In other words, the collective. They've just changed the words, but they're all a bunch of commies.
We need to redraw the lines of how we engage with each other, both online and off. What we're exposed to online seeps into how we engage with each other offline. It can train us to be kind, or it can train us to be cruel.
Okay, so we want censorship. That's what we want.
No, not censorship. Training, Sonny.
I mean, we really got to watch out for that misinformation. Right? I mean, this is setting everybody up for a lockdown on speech.
I love the music, too. Do, 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 do,
do. Free speech sucks.
But when the bad outweighs the good, for many, whether we realize it or not, it erodes our ability to have compassion and our ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes.
You mean like a privileged royal might have difficulty putting themselves in someone else's shoes?
No.
No, not like that. Like someone who's online too much, watching too many videos of, getting too many Q drops or something.
Exactly.
These
watching
people
Fox
are
News.
Assholes. These people want to ban your access to information. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
No, not ban access to information. They want to ban access to right-wing news.
Yeah, sorry.
That's really what this is.
You're right.
Because when one person buys into negativity online, the effects are felt exponentially.
Okay, how is that not chillingly like Brave New World?
Oh
Hey, everybody, no negativity, da-da-da. Maybe if you take some drugs, you'll be fine.
It's time to not only reflect, but act.
Now, we're just 6 weeks out from Election Day, and today is National Voter Registration Day. Every 4 years, we are told the same thing, that this is the most important election of our lifetime. But this one is. Okay. We really mean it this time.
Trump is so bad that this one really is important. 4 years ago, when it was Hillary versus Trump, that one wasn't as important as this one because we've seen how awful he is. Like what? Like why? Where is it? I don't get it. Who falls for this shit?
When we vote, our values are put into action and our voices are heard. Your voice is a reminder that you matter because you do and you deserve to be heard.
It's so manipulative. You're a change maker. You're a transformative warrior. And we've got to stop all the negativity and the nastiness, and it's you that has to do it by voting and right? I mean,
but don't reflect, act.
Right.
So vote for Biden.
There's no policy here. There's no, except to say we need to see everything through the lens of community. I mean, I guess I would say that's an ideology right there.
Like if you don't already know where they're coming from, what has been said here? Like what? Yeah. Just about like a word salad of corporate buzzwords but somehow that all translates into acting.
Right.
Don't reflect. Vote. It's time to act now.
Which they don't.
Because you deserve to be heard. No, you don't. No one deserves to be heard.
Right.
Like 5 people deserve to be heard.
Including us. Okay.
Including us. Maybe.
Maybe.
We're on the fence.
I'm not going to be able to vote here in the US. But many of you may not know that I haven't been able to vote in the UK my entire life. As we approach this November...
Harry, reminder, that's because you're not supposed to be political. Because it jeopardizes your country and the freaking global peace. That's why, you idiot.
So he can't even vote in his own country, but he's telling us what to do?
He's telling us what to do. Because...
In America? Because why?
Because it's really important this year, Doug. It's really important.
This is the most important election.
This is the most important.
Okay.
We reject hate speech, misinformation, and online negativity.
So as we work to reimagine
hate speech, misinformation, and online negativity, and I guarantee you, it's all right-wing stuff that he's thinking about there. It's not the misinformation of the mainstream media or the misinformation of the New York Times and the crazy people online.
No, and if you burn down a city or loot a business, that's not negative at all.
It's also not hate speech. That's just hate action, but we don't care.
In the world around us, let's challenge ourselves to build communities of compassion.
Tonight reminds us of how important it is to watch out for each other, to care for each other, and to inspire each other. We are incredibly proud to join you in this historic moment in time.
Thank you.
Can they be any more insufferable?
By the way, this misinformation and fact-checking thing is really insidious. It's really gotten to the like I knew where this was going years ago, and it's a euphemism for censoring right-wing ideas. And because in their view, anything right-wing or right of center is evil, and so it's wrong. And what they've done is they've completely blurred the line of what a fact is versus an opinion, like the fact checking thing. So if you like a fact is like that shirt is blue or something like that. But for them, if you say, well, something's like pro-Trump or something like that, that's wrong. That's not a fact. So they censor everything. And I'm having this on Facebook. I don't know if you have this too, where the virologist, the Chinese virologist, they are banning that on Facebook because they said it was independently fact checked. And so you can't even have a discussion or a conversation or an interview with someone who has an opinion, because if they perceive that one thing might be wrong or they don't like, then it's been fact checked to be wrong. I mean, this is really, really evil.
It is evil, and when we could see this coming. I mean, it's so obvious the ploy. At least to me, I'm having a hard time figuring out how anyone can watch these two people and not see them as despicable. But there are people who don't, who watch that and go, "Oh, Harry and Meghan, they're so awesome. What great ambassadors for goodness and light in the world,"
Yeah.
And yet, like you said, they don't say anything. They have all this fake language. It's such a disgusting... When I think about politics before Trump, everything was like that. You know, everything out of Romney's mouth and McCain's mouth and even Ted Cruz's mouth was this overly scripted, overly fake, meaningless, like just designed to kind of... I don't know what. Like, who's the common denominator that shit appeals to? Because in your everyday life, even a low IQ person can sense when they're dealing with a straight shooter versus somebody who's just puffing them up. At least a lot of people can. It's not like an IQ thing. It's almost like, have you been paying attention in your life about who's good and who's bad? And you get these vibes off of people based on their body language and their language and how they talk and stuff. And to me, it's just like and I think people are having that reaction to Trump. There are people who have that knee-jerk emotional response to him because he turns them off in that same sort of way that these people turn me off. Only it's for like the opposite reason. They like the fake. They like the... I mean, we can talk about that because I didn't like Trump at first either. I mean... You know, I had major problems with how he conducted himself in the primaries, but I got over it because of what I've seen happen. And I think some of that is pretty good. And I always liked him for his funny kind of tough talk when he would slam somebody that I wanted him to slam, like the media. Or my favorite is that moment when he told the Mexican president that the wall just got 10 feet taller. Right. I mean, I cheered and I hated the guy and I was cheering that. And I made a video at the time and I said, okay, I don't really like Trump. He's this, he's that, he's probably corrupt. He's probably a bad guy. But there's this piece about him that I really like, which is that he's not afraid to be like, F off. In favor of America. Like it's always America to maybe these foreigners or people who hate America. Someone who's gonna say outright, look, these immigrants are from shithole countries. They should be grateful to be here and they should appreciate America. Oh my God, he just said shithole country. I love that stuff. I love it when he says stuff like that. And I've always loved it because it's a defense of our country that we haven't heard, like a genuine, honest, real defense of America that we haven't heard from any leadership in this country for a long time. We once in a while see a glimpse of it with someone like Andrew Breitbart. But I don't think there'd be a Trump without an Andrew Breitbart. Like you can see the progression of how the right has gotten bolder and bolder and bolder. And one of the great things about Trump, whether you like him or not, in my opinion, is that he emboldens the right to be like that. And then you have other people who have that personality who are stepping out into prominence. And it's good to see that. We need that. That's how we defend America. So I don't want to get into our analysis of Trump, but I guess I'm having this, like, I think people have like a knee-jerk reaction to him, a psychological response to him, the way I do to Meghan Markle and Harry at this point. I used to like Harry, but I don't like, and I have the same reaction to Ocasio-Cortez, which I'm going to play a video that she did now because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Chuck Schumer came out in response to Ginsburg's death and made, a statement about it. And basically, they're all freaking out because Trump is going to actually go ahead and nominate somebody before the presidential election. And instead of, normally Schumer appears with Pelosi at his side. And this time he appeared with Cortez at his side. And I thought that was a major moment in politics. She's a freshman representative in Congress, and she was the person that Schumer had next to him to make the statement and the announcement about Ginsburg. And if you all recall, when she got into office, her very first day on the job, or like the day before her first day on the job, she conducted a sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office hallway against Nancy Pelosi. Day one. And I thought at the time, oh my God, this woman just took over the Democrat Party. Because she was in the hallway with a bunch of young people in T-shirts pushing this Green New Deal and saying, you know, she was like, I called her the, what was that Game of Thrones? The head priest. I called her the head, you know, she's coming in her monk's outfit and shaming the establishment priests because they are decadent and they have lost sight of the religion.
Oh, it's like Jesus and the money turning the tables and the money changer. You know, she's going into the corrupt temple and throwing a fit. Yeah.
So she's in the hallway saying, you haven't done enough. You know, we need this Green New Deal, which is this radical crushing of our world. Talk about change maker and transformative. Yes. You know, let's get rid of airplanes and let's get rid of tall buildings and let's get
cows.
rid of. Let's tear down anything with insulation in it because that's somehow bad. And oh yeah, cows are bad, and it would kill. I don't know, how many billions of people do you think that would kill?
Well, it would change the population. And that's natural.
Change it from 7 billion to a couple hundred million.
It's a population change maker.
Right. So she did that, and I'm watching that and going, she's the freaking High Sparrow coming in and shaming all of these establishment Democrats. And because she's pure, she just took over. And here we are, fast forward a few years later, and she was trotted out as the representative of Congress for the Democrats to discuss the Ginsburg fallout, the Ginsburg death fallout. So here we are, you guys. We have a little chauvinista as the head of the the Democrats in Congress. And she just put out the following statement. This is a much longer, rambling Instagram video that she did, but here's just a little segment where she actually calls on everybody to radicalize. And she knows what that means.
Those are the sentiments coming out. Then at this point, you are helping every person that is trying to marginalize the rights, the economic future, and the just prosperity of people of all people that are deserving here in our country, which is everybody. Everybody's deserving of safety and prosperity and justice.
No, they're not.
Everybody is deserving of safety, prosperity, and justice. Can you, that is the most Marxist
package deal.
It's unreal. And this is just open politics right now.
So listen, let this moment radicalize you. Let this moment really put everything into stark focus, because this election has always been about the fight of and for our lives. And if anything, tonight is making that more clear to more people than ever before.
This is by tonight, she means Ginsburg's death.
And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get more and more and more clear up until Election Day. Things are going to happen. They are. We have an authoritarian president. That's what we have. He has no regard for the dignity of human life. He has no regard for law. He has no regard for justice. He has no regard for anything unless it personally helps him and his power and his money and that of the Republican establishment. That's just what it is. It's just what it is. So listen, on the left, there's a huge diversity, right? And we get mad at each other. That's the way it...
All right, I'm just going to stop it there. I mean, she's so gross, you guys. She's just... How did this person... When I look at her and Ilhan Omar and that pack of crazies, the squad, I just... That... They are so... They're so un-American. It's hard to understand how they even have office. But they do. And not only that, they're leading it.
They're sort of the opposite of Mount Rushmore. Like if you could have the anti-American Mount Rushmore, I'd put them on it. Like socialist, Muslim, America-hating people.
Right. So that's who the Democrats are. And you have the presidential candidate, the candidate today, Joe Biden, is, I mean, we don't know, his brain is gone. And you have Kamala Harris, his running mate, saying the riots are good and they should continue. We have Democrats all across America supporting Black Lives Matters, Antifa. I mean, I don't know how you can look out at the world and not see, and I think most people on the right, at least, or even in the middle at this point, see what's going on. They don't want the riots. They don't want what's happening. You have some weird people who I've had friends who I would have thought were on the right who are actually BLM supporters, which I don't even know how you could get there after everything. But what we're going to talk about next is this objectivist support for Biden, which is through and through in the kind of upper echelon of the objectivist movement. And I think why it's interesting maybe to a broader audience, I know most of my audience are not objectivists, is that you're hearing a lot of this from libertarian friends too. And there are freedom-loving people that you thought were freedom-loving who are supporting the Democrats for president this go-round. And it feels like it's mostly just this kind of weird hatred for Trump. They just really can't get past. But they do, I've heard other people make other arguments that it really is ideological and they really are on the same side as the identity politics, the Marxism, the nihilism of the left. And, we don't know what's in these people's psychology. But anyway, what we do have are some things that they've written. And this is what happened yesterday. Harry Binswanger posted on his Facebook wall a post written by a guy called Mac Mollison, who I don't know. And the reason I feel comfortable reading this, even though this was privately done, is because I actually saw it first on a public post that another objectivist had cut and paste. So I think when you post something like this, it's really just gone viral, cut and paste, and it's public all over Facebook at this point. People are talking about it, and so to me, it's public record. So I'm gonna talk about it. I don't feel like it's. Do you feel like it's inappropriate for me to read this verbatim?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so, just because I've seen it everywhere. And there is an acknowledgement that the people on the left are screwed up, and then they explain why. They explain why that still that we should still vote for them. I have to put a lozenge in my mouth because I am back on prednisone, everybody. I had to go in the hospital a couple weeks ago again, so that's why I didn't make any podcasts. And now
what level of prednisone from 1 to 10?
What do you mean? Like on a scale of 1 to 10?
Remember, we were going to have a prednisone meter for you.
In the pred report? God damn it, you guys. All right, you want to hear the health update? It's so dumb. I'm actually sort of, it's embarrassing what I did. It was kind of weird and foolish. I was on prednisone. As you know, I was in the hospital earlier in the year, and I was put on a bunch of pred, and I'm making my way down, and I'm tapering, and you can't just stop taking it, because your body gets addicted to it and the withdrawal is horrible. And you can even die from going too fast off of it. But more than that, what I didn't want to have happen, what can happen is that as you're tapering, your underlying condition flares up because your body became sort of addicted to this drug, and you have to very slowly go off of it so your body doesn't have a reaction to the withdrawal, and you're basically back at square one. So I was slowly going off of it, and I was feeling really good, and I was like super happy, and I just kept going lower and lower like a dummy. I'm waiting for October for this treatment that I'm being denied. I actually got it in May and June, and it was working. And now I can't have it because the FDA shut down the lab because of coronavirus. Oh, so while they wait and see like how the safety was going to be updated for this treatment and the labs, like they shut down all the frickin' labs. So in this case, this is an experimental treatment And it was, so I'm getting it kind of like, because my doctor works for the University of Minnesota and I'm part of a study. They shut down all these labs. Anything experimental was stopped. And so this thing that was working for me, I can't have it until October while they jump through all the hoops to get started again. So in the meantime, I should have just stayed on prednisone and not tried to get off of it. But being on prednisone makes me extremely vulnerable to coronavirus complications. And so I was kind of feeling like in a hurry, but really without something else, I really can't go off of it. So it was kind of dumb. I got too low and then I got sick again. So I had to go back in the hospital and go back on like a super high dose. And now I'm on, I would say like a 5, like a middle dose as I'm tapering again. But what I need to do is get down to like on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 3 and stay there and not, a comfortable place where I'm not too drugged on this dumb drug and I don't feel too bad, but I'm not off of it. However, we're also right around the corner from October. So by the time I get my treatment, I'll probably just continue going off of it anyway. But it was just dumb. I just got too low and I did it to myself kind of. I don't know what I was thinking.
Once again, I'm glad the FDA is keeping you safe.
Right. And, the FDA approved this rapid testing and stuff that could like get everybody into a position of sending their kids to school and so on. But they've also stopped, they've allowed the tests, but the government has bought all the tests. I'm trying to figure out how we live in a free country anymore, because why aren't these tests just available to the highest bidder? That's how it works. That's how capitalism works. The tests go to the highest bidder, and the more money they make, the more tests you get. That's how that works, everybody.
Yeah, it'd be pretty simple.
It's the freaking, it's basic Adam Smith shit.
Go to Walgreens, buy a test.
Oh my God. We would be in that scenario today if the government was not involved. And you know what else you could buy at Walgreens? You could buy an N95 mask that fits your freaking face if it was not for the government snapping up all the N95s and hoarding them. So honestly, when did the government top-down approach ever work for any good or service? It's never worked.
Never. This time especially, it's not going to work. In the past, we've said it doesn't work. But especially this time, it's not going to work.
You've heard in the past that this is an important election, but this one really is an important election. I think both sides are saying that right now.
Okay. They're right.
It is kind of important. It feels Civil War-ish out there. So.
Oh, yeah.
And just as a basic analysis of this whole RBG thing, I think the Dems are freaking out so bad because their plan to steal the election has just been foiled by this woman dying.
Yeah.
They wanted it to go to the Supreme Court, and they wanted, Roberts to flip, which he will, because he probably was on Jeff Epstein's plane.
Yep.
And
they've got
naked pictures of him with a minor. You know it, because how else did they get Obamacare through?
Yep.
So that was their plan, and their plan is now foiled. So if Trump wins in a landslide, it's over for them. So anyway, okay. So here's what the brilliant objectivists are saying today. Okay. A vote for Trump sends the message that it is okay to jettison rational discourse in American politics. If you think the Democrats have already done that, that is all the more reason not to permit the Republicans to do it. To jettison rational discourse, that is, reason and reality, means that we break into two tribes that cannot cooperate and communicate. If you think the Democrats are too tribal, and they are, consider Black Lives Matters, that is all the more reason not to permit such tribalism to the Republicans. So that's the basic argument, I think. I mean, they go on from there to try to prove that the rational discourse is broken on the right.
What does this mean? This is such a floating abstraction to me, like rational discourse. You're talking about Joe Biden, a brain-addled dementia victim, and Trump, right? So we're talking about American politics, right? Like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and people like this. And
Ocasio-Cortez.
We're talking about jettisoning rational discourse. What the fuck does that mean?
Well, I think it means like that civility thing where people kind of come to the table and they make a deal and there's a compromise and people can talk to each other and you can resolve an argument or at least have an argument, without shutting the other person down or bashing them over the head or rioting and looting. And I'm trying to figure out where the people on the right are doing the censorship and the silencing and the thugging and the robbing and the intimidation and all of that is coming from the left right now.
Right.
So
that's a false sort of equivocation here because they're, like you said, the censorship, the violence, the corruption, the unwillingness to engage in any sort of like rational discussion, whether it be white privilege, identity politics, the idea that everything is race-based and, the grievance politics, the censorship, the cancel culture, the woke thing, that's all coming from the left. So also, they're the ones who are pushing us into tribal warfare.
The fake investigations of anyone associated with a political campaign they don't like, including the political campaign itself and the main candidate, like all the violence, that's violence. That's using the government force to crush. Who wants to work for Trump? I wouldn't.
Right.
I'd get a microscope up my butt so far, they'd find a crime, I could potentially lose everything. These people who are actually working for Trump, thank God they want power more than they care about that. Because who would want to do that?
We only know because Trump won. We never would have known this, but we now know the extent to which the DOJ, the FBI was corrupted and politicized and weaponized and used, and including the intelligence services were used to try and undermine the Trump campaign, to spy on Americans, to obtain fraudulent FISA warrants.
Before that, the crushing of the Tea Party by the IRS and OSHA and right. That story of that woman who she and her husband had a business and they started a nonprofit to get like True the Vote or something like it was the True the Vote people, the Tea Partiers.
Yeah, they were denying nonprofit status to hundreds of Tea Party organizations. Election.
But on top of that, they got multiple federal agencies descended on their business.
Yes.
So where is the authoritarianism and the violence and the canceling of rational discourse on the right? It's all coming from the left. And I don't know so then they're saying, okay, yeah, we acknowledge that the left is also doing that. But that means it's all the more reason for the Republicans to, I don't know, take the higher ground somehow and like continue to try to discuss things with these people. That's what they're saying.
And you accomplish that apparently by voting for Biden and the left and putting them in power.
Okay, but now that's like a whole nother level. But let's just back up to the first point because I'm trying to like get my mind around this. The idea is if one side brings a gun to your fight, you should, I don't know, throw flowers at them? Like that?
Give them a book?
Like, are you a freaking hippie? Did you suck in the 60s hippie philosophy? Is that what's going on here? Because I know Harry was alive then. What the hell is he thinking? This is no kumbaya moment. This isn't like, oh, we just keep talking while they ignore us when we talk to ourselves. We talk amongst ourselves in a bubble and pat ourselves on the back about how fucking smart we are because we get it.
Well, this points to the underlying rationalism here, which is the disconnect between action and thought. So why can't we have both?
Well, exactly.
Yes, it would be nice to have a very reasoned, thoughtful, policy that then we put into action vigorously through using sort of any means necessary in the political process to achieve our ends and to fight. But is Trump that? No. but the side that he's on is the side that in general represents the American founding principles, law and order, civilization, capitalism, to whatever extent we still have this, American spirit. This is the side they're on. So even though, no, it's not a perfect representation of what we'd want politically, it's still in general the spirit of what we want. And he's fighting politically for that. So like you said, like at some point, yes, you can have a discussion, but you also need to bring a gun.
Okay, yeah. So I guess of course it's a war of ideas fundamentally. But yeah, there is no disconnect between ideas and action. And, you know, Harry wouldn't have been in favor of the American Revolution, I guess, because he would have just kept pushing for rational discourse or something. And I don't even understand, like you said, what does that even mean? I guess it means to continue to talk. Because what else does it mean? Of course, our side needs to continue to put out the right ideas. And that's what the objectivists should be doing.
Right.
Where are you putting out the right ideas? Don't give me this, I'm doing a video with Gloria Alvarez where I talk about epistemology on some freaking abstract level that nobody cares about. You're not attacking critical race theory. You're not in the culture war. And guess who is? Donald Trump. You freaking don't like him, but he's in the actual ideological war and you're not.
Exactly.
What is wrong with you? I'm so pissed about this. Like, where are these intellectuals when it comes to the ideas and the ideology that we're all out here fighting? And actually Trump, the guy they think is so stupid and so gauche and, you know, he's just too much. He's too much of a truck driver for them, you know? And I don't want my president to... I don't even know anymore. I don't even care. I've never paid much attention to his tweets. I don't really care what he's doing. What he's saying, like some of these weird, inappropriate things that he does. I don't even care. I don't even pay attention to it because it's just not important. But when he calls out the media as fake news, when he, you know, did he sidle up to dictators? People keep saying that one, that he sidles up to dictators, and I'm like, which dictators does he? I don't see that he's friends with any of these guys. He blows smoke up their ass and disarms them. They don't know what to say and what to do, and he ends up with peace in the Middle frickin' East. What?
Yeah,
obviously it's working, right?
And let's throw in the fact that, Trump is part of an administration, and when you were reading AOC before, let's keep in mind, Biden is brain-addled. I mean, he's done. So the people around him are all that's important. And who are the people around him?
There have always been puppet masters, right?
AOC. And this is the heart of the Democratic Party, is the AOC leftists.
Yeah.
And Trump and his administration, whatever you think of him, his administration, which incorporates thousands of people throughout all the agencies and the courts and the people that they nominate to the federal courts, and throughout all these cabinet level agencies and the intelligencers, everything else. This is what's critical. And because he's boorish or whatever, or he's not this Thomas Jefferson type character, who gives a shit? If Trump, I was saying this the other day, if like Trump was literally like in a wheelchair just spewing nonsense and garbage, I'd still vote for him. Because
right.
Over Biden, because of his administration and the people around him. Those are the people that you're voting for.
And that's what you're seeing on the Democrat side. They're like, we don't care that he's senile. We're voting for the Democrats. And everybody knows that running a country is a big undertaking with a lot of people. I don't think Obama was so much in charge. Look at it was him plus Valerie Jarrett plus and that Rahm Emanuel guy. I mean, it was a whole group of people that were running things. He was playing
golf most of the time. He was a figurehead.
Michelle was probably involved. I mean, you're voting for a party of people when you vote for a president. And the people who work for that party, who declare for that side, they tend to follow the party lines. That's the whole reason why we have parties, so that they can put pressure on these individuals to actually have to, or they don't get support, they don't get backing. And maybe they get murdered if you're a Democrat, because that happens, right?
And once again, this is the problem with isolating someone's philosophical pathology out of context, because you're not taking into Trump has these flaws, whatever. So, okay, compared to what? Well, Biden has these flaws. So you have to take into account the full context here, which is all the people around him, all the decisions that are being made by all the people, and and the ideology that's fueling the people around him, whether it's nominations to whether it be the Federal Reserve Bank or the EPA or the Department of Energy or Department of Education, all these things. Would you rather have the AOC leftist type people or the Trump type people? Because and we're gonna base that decision on rational discourse.
Of one man.
The jettisoning of rational discourse?
Of one man. But I think that you can also see that the kind of cheerful talking back attitude has started to permeate the right. He definitely is having an influence on whether or not the average Joe is putting up with crap from the average Democrat. You're seeing it out in society where people on the right are like, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And all of that has filtered downhill from Trump. So yeah, people are less likely to have a conversation, but they weren't having conversations before. And I think that's the important point too. The left, even on the person-to-person level, everybody knows this, that in your corporation and in your workplace, if you're on the right, you keep your mouth shut. Unless you live in like a really red area, you have to keep your mouth shut. I have lost jobs because of my political views. Absolutely. And people talk environmentalism and they talk, I remember when Bush was president, so much Bush hatred. He's a Nazi, he's Hitler, so on. Being spoken openly in an office setting as if it's a given. So the people on the left felt very fine just expressing their opinions, like everybody must agree with them. And if you didn't, I hated Bush myself, but I was definitely not an environmentalist and I wasn't a leftist. But I didn't, I had to be really careful. I would sometimes try to be like, well, I'm going to say I disagree. I'm not going to get into it with people. But I just feel like I can't just let that hang. Like, you assume we're all environmentalists and we're not. So maybe keep your politics and your religion at home like we used to.
Well, now, if you are caught on social media, posting something that's pro-Trump or something like that, you'll get fired from your job.
You'll get fired. If you don't post a black square, you could get fired from your job for not posting something positive about BLM.
Right, because you're not showing enough zeal for the party.
Right, it's not even just don't post anything against it.
Silence is violence.
Right. So that's the world that we live in, and then they're saying the right has jettisoned rational discourse.
I can't think of anything that's further from the truth.
Well, sure, the left has, but the right shouldn't. What are we supposed to do exactly? And I do think, if you are looking out at the world, the only people talking about ideas in a really interesting way are people on the right. So if you think the right has jettisoned rational discourse, you're not reading Douglas Murray. You're not, there are there are dozens of right-wing thinkers writing books that are really good and really interesting and going on podcasts. Are you watching the internet? Are you seeing what's going on? Even people from the left, the Brett Weinsteins and those people, are having conversations with people on the right. That is actually happening, and it's being censored by the left.
Right. Dave Rubin, Joe Rogan, these types of
Brett
people.
Brett Weinstein, his brother Eric. So I'm going left, there's right. Joe Rogan's a leftist. Tim Pool's a leftist. All the people talking about stuff are being censored by the left. And they've moved right, and they're Trump supporters. And you objectivists are not. It's like, where you don't get it. You don't get it.
And again, this is the ideology of the left, is to shut down and cancel the right. They're not interested in free speech and reason. Like, they're ideologically opposed to rational discourse. It's not that they just are temporarily not engaging in it. They are literally ideologically opposed to reason. I mean, listen to the critical race theory. I mean, they don't think reason even is valid. They think that everything is based on, race and power and class and the whole Marxist, postmodernist philosophy.
And if you have white skin, shut up. You have nothing to say. In fact, don't shut up. Apologize. Acknowledge your white privilege. Acknowledge there's no such thing as two genders. Acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. Do all of this, actually, because silence is violence. And let me to get back to the Objectivists, it says, I just read this and I'm going to just reread it. If you think the Democrats are too tribal, and they are, that is all the more reason not to permit such tribalism to the Republicans. So I'm trying to figure out what they mean by tribalism to the Republicans. I think they have this view that Trump supporters support Trump because they are worshiping Trump versus, or like it's our side. And I don't get that at all. This claim of tribalism, I feel like they're defining tribalism as people who get together in a group and unite to fight a common enemy. That somehow that's tribal. It's not, you guys. That's not tribalism. That's what the Americans did. They unite or die. They united to fight the British. Is that tribalism? When they said, we're Americans, we're the American colonies, we're going to get together and fight against British tyranny. Oh my God, they're being tribalists.
They've jettisoned rational discourse in favor of tribalism.
That's what they're saying. That's what these people are saying, that just getting together is tribalism. And it's not. And if you look at things like the walkaway movement, these are Democrats leaving the Democrat Party and supporting Trump because they have realized that the Democrats have gone way too far. They've gone way too radical. They're in favor of things that these people are not in favor of, which is tearing down the country, abolishing free speech. They realize they've been lied to and manipulated by the media, and they're walking away from the Democrats, and they're joining the right. Are they being tribal? I mean, objectivists would say yes. These objectivists would say yes, that's tribalists.
That's such a position of ignorance, because on the basis of what? How do they justify viewing people on the right as being tribal? Now, are there people, in any group, there's always people that are like my side, no matter what, kind of a thing. Yeah, we saw that during the Bush years, right? Oh my God, trying to convince people that Bush was like a socialist was insane. Yeah. People were like, Bush, Bush. But a lot of those people have woken up. They needed their own walkaway moment. And so it's such a position of it to regard, the people on Fox News, for example, and, like all the right-wing outlets as being these sort of like tribalistic morons that just wave a flag and, you'd have to have like no knowledge or spend no time reading or understanding what the right is doing in our culture right now vis-a-vis the left. I mean, you'd have to be, I don't know, they must literally read the New York Times. And they listen to NPR or something. And so let me go on and read some more of this and we can continue to talk about it. The very next statement is completely not backed up, and I don't even know how you get. So then there's some arguments made for it. We could survive 4 years of a Democrat president, and if it doesn't come now, it will come in 4 years. I don't know why you think we could, and I don't know why you think it's inevitable that we're going to have a Democrat in 4 years again. I mean, if everything's good after another 4 years of Trump, we could get another Republican president easily. Okay, and they say what the country cannot survive is make-believe as the standard of political discourse. I just don't know where that comes from, make-believe, and I don't know why they think that
Political discourse is just make believe at this point. When you say the media is fake news, is that a lie? Because it's not.
Or that make believe, quote unquote, is somehow just the province of the right.
Well, but I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from on the right. I don't see that.
No, I would really like some examples.
Well, one of them is, we cannot survive, quote, lock her up and all that it entails. I guess they think that's made up or make believe that Hillary is a criminal.
Oh, this really set me off because this is such a position of ignorance to assume here we have Hillary who literally committed crimes, was passed that were passed over by...
She obstructed justice. She wiped her servers.
And it was covered up by a corrupt DOJ, and she paid for a foreign agent to compile a fake dossier, which was laundered through the Department of Justice, used to get FISA warrants fraudulently, the whole Russia hoax, everything that we now know. And for Trump supporters to say, lock her up, is a statement of justice. We do not have two standards of justice in this country. If you commit a crime, and what she did, many people have gone to jail for, she should go to jail. And so lock her up was absolutely an expression of rational justice.
I agree. And to not see it that way, to not see it as an expression of equal justice before the law for all Americans, regardless of your position of power, lock her up is a statement of, we want her tried for the crimes that are obvious, that we see that are obvious, and she has not been indicted for. We want her tried. Any
American would go to jail for.
Any American. Just the sending of classified emails as the head of the State Department. She, and it gets worse. Like her whole Uranium One deal and all the Clinton Foundation corruption.
Oh my God, yes.
The Clinton Cash is a book. Go read it, people. Go read some of these damn books that are being written by people on the right.
Peter Schweitzer's.
It's not Clinton a conspiracy theory, which I hate using that term, but
that's even in the New York Times, the Clinton Uranium One deal.
Right. So to hold lock her up and all that it entails, like, enough said, you don't need to explain yourself. Like, that is an expression of political ignorance that is so profound that I don't even know if you even need to read on from this. But anybody that would put that out there as evidence of unthinking anti-reason on the right, like, where do you live? Okay.
Absolutely.
We cannot survive presidents who openly admire totalitarian dictators and openly signal that they would like to stay in power without limits. Okay, first of all, they cannot handle a president with a sense of humor, apparently, because when he said, I should get another term, it was a joke.
Yeah.
And he's winding up the left, and he's winding you up, you idiot. He was kidding. You need to, chill. How many times has Trump made a joke? And then the headline in the New York Times is, oh my God, he just said he wants to take over, blah, blah, blah. And these people are reading the New York Times and taking it as fact.
And how would that work exactly? He'd say, okay, I'm staying.
Right.
In defiance of the 25th Amendment. And,
Right.
Really?
Okay, has there ever been a president who wouldn't prefer to just stay in power? I mean, you can't. At least so far you can't. So that's a really good point. It's like, what, Trump might be the first president who wants to stay in power? Give me a break.
So this open admission of totalitarian dictators, this is part of his style, is to butter these clowns up. But look at the action. Like, what has he done? When he called him Rocket Man, the North Korean, Kim, when was the last time this guy sent a missile into the Sea of Japan?
Right. It hasn't happened.
What's going on in the Middle East? Like, how many nightclubs are being shot up by ISIS right now? Like, what wars has he escalated? Just look at the world. Look at his actions. What's going on?
Right.
He could say all he wants.
Has Putin invaded another country? No.
I don't think so.
Russia's pretty quiet. Besides the recent assassination, they've been pretty quiet. And there's peace agreements going on in the Middle East that nobody believed were even possible. Kim Jong-un isn't doing much. I think the worst is China. the fact that they unleashed a freaking pandemic on the world, lied about it, and so on and so forth, continued to let investigators, they haven't let investigators in to see where the thing originated and to learn more about it. And they're hiding, they're lying.
This is our biggest geopolitical threat is China.
They just took over Hong Kong in like, one ruling. They just said, okay, we're just going to start extraditing people. And then they arrested all the leadership of the resistance.
And who identified China and is actually trying to take some sort of concrete action against it with the tariffs, whether you think that that's the best way to do it or not. But, what are previous administrations done about China? Nothing except embolden them and enrich them.
Well, but a couple years ago, didn't he say Xi's a good guy? So
sure.
everything that he's done, it doesn't matter, because 2 years ago he said, yeah, I'm working with Xi and, he really cares about his people and he's a good guy. Oh, he's openly admiring totalitarian dictators. I mean, I'm just so sick of this. What a stupid thing to say. He's blowing smoke up their butts, you guys. And it's a tactic. It's a style. You don't like it. Okay. But like you said, Doug, let's look at results. So who really cares? At the end of the day, nobody believes he means it anyway.
Yeah. Does anyone really believe that he really secretly loves Kim, just thinks he's a great little fat guy, presiding over the Stalinist nightmare dystopia, that this is what he really wants in America? And that he's taken any action concretely towards that end? Like, what if Trump's actions are dictatorial? Like, what has he done specifically that would grant him some sort of dictatorial power?
Yeah, and so I don't really get that.
Compared to any other president, compared to what Obama did or what Bush did or any of the other ones did.
Meanwhile, you had Obama sucking up to Iran and, saying to Russia, hey, I'll have wider powers when I get reelected, and, basically being a bitch to every dictator in the world and
bowing down. Remember when he was bowing to all the kings?
And causing, what was going on under Obama was unbelievable unrest in the Middle East. Like, every week there was a new revolution over there. And over here,
what happened in Libya.
Over here, remember we were having a terrorist attack every few days?
Yeah.
And that has stopped. Like, the moment Trump took office, it was done. I don't recall even maybe there's been one or two. I don't even know.
Yeah, remember what they did in Libya and destabilizing Syria, which led to the Civil War, which led to ISIS. All these things happened under these previous administrations. So when you're looking at foreign policy, again, you don't take an isolated statement out of context and say, this describes the philosophical pathology of this president, and we're going to infer from that what he's going to do. Look at what he's done. He's got a 4-year track record. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Some of it's very good. But compare that to what we would get from the other guy. Don't just look at that statement out of context. That's such a stupid way to assess politics.
It really is. Okay, next sentence. You're not going to believe this one. We cannot survive U.S. attorneys general who merely serve the personal interests of the president and facts and justice be damned. Is he talking about Barr? Because that sounds like Eric Holder.
Sounds like Janet Reno. It sounds like every attorney general under every Democrat.
Well, first of all, the DOJ is supposed to work for the president. That's number one. Number two, where's the corruption? Point to the corruption of William Barr, because I don't see it.
Yeah, what are the facts here?
Where are my indictments of Comey and all of these people I'm waiting for? I'm worried the guy's corrupt on the other side. And you're worried that he works for Trump? Where are the arrests of people who committed crimes?
Yeah, I think he's a wuss.
Yeah, I do too. Oh my God.
We're all sitting here why aren't people in jail over all this? This is crazy.
Okay. We cannot survive shotgun mergers of major companies for the benefit of the president's friends and all that entails. No, there was no security threat from TikTok. What American teenagers do on their phones has no intelligence value to the Chinese. Oh, really?
That's just wrong.
What American teenagers do and think has no value to the Chinese? You're a fucking idiot if you think that's true.
Complete ignorance of the technology, too.
Of China's tactics, of their long-range mentality, of how propaganda works, how the youth can be rallied around communism and a cause. I mean, but also, you think it's okay that the Chinese have facial recognition technology for all of your kids? And like know things about their private life and maybe even have compromising video and picture of them? Did you know TikTok saves and transfers videos you didn't even post that you just made and saved in the little behind the scenes system? All of that stuff was transferred to China. So videos they didn't even post publicly. And that is okay with you? You think that, if they ever invaded, God forbid, like let's say we're laid flat by a pandemic, for example, and California, took $1 billion loan from them for, equipment, and like Gavin Newsom is buddies with China. And what if they invade and then they have this technology to basically track all the kids and now it's 10 years from now. So now they're adults but they have all this data and technology on all the American people under 30.
Well, this just represents a total ignorance of the nature of the threat. And I think the cybersecurity experts know a little bit more than this clown.
I feel like it's okay. China already has a social credit scoring system in place against their people. They have facial technology all across their country. They know what everybody is doing all the time, and they can stop their own people from taking flights, from getting on trains, from getting a loan, living their lives. They have that technology thanks to Silicon Valley. And it's not some crazy out there scheme that 10 years from now they might try to do something here. Especially when you see how far we've gone down the authoritarian hole here in the last 10 years.
Well, does anyone have any doubt that the AOCs and the big tech Silicon Valley leftists would turn this technology against the right if they had the right allies in Washington?
Right.
I mean, they're already doing it.
They're already using everything they can to crush the right. Every government agency they can, they're doing it. And so, so we can take this objectivist stuff and we can go, all right, this is nuts that they think Trump is so bad and this is their analysis. But, they're not saying vote for the libertarian candidate or abstain. That's not what they're saying. They're saying vote Democrat. Vote for the communist thugs that are burning down your cities, censoring information, pushing, vote for Meghan Markle and Harry. People who want to they want you to see things through the lens of community, and they want you to, they want to radicalize you into violence. They want to force people to speak, forced speech, because silence is violence. Vote for those people. I mean, the explicit Marxism and racism on the left is so despicable. And the thuggery that we literally have brown shirts in the streets intimidating people and burning shit down. And we want to vote for those people to teach the right a lesson, and somehow that's going to make them more reasonable people. That is the most twisted fucking thing I've ever heard.
It is.
And I don't know how you can get there unless you just enjoy watching it burn. You are one of these libertarians who's really, it's Galt's Gulch. Oh, I want to see it all collapse and burn down and tear down while I go over here with my classical music and I'm safe in my little freaking valley while the whole world burns. And while I love that novel, that's not life. That's not reality. It's not going to happen that way. And furthermore, it'd be better if it just didn't. I wish Ayn Rand had written a book where the people actually fought back and took back their freaking country.
Yeah.
But maybe she said, well, that book's been written. It's called The American Revolution. So I don't need to write it. She wrote a novel with her own angst, and her own sort of, wouldn't it be great if we could just remove our sanction and this is the logical consequence of everything they believe. She's making a philosophic statement. And you want that as a freaking blueprint of your life. You've been wishing for a Galt's Gulch your whole freaking life. That is your problem. It doesn't exist. What we have is this country and these people. And you want it to burn down. And you don't even like the truck driver, the American cowboy, you don't like those people.
No. That's such a great point. The gun-toting country music American.
Step back and think about that for a second. You don't like those people. They're rubes to you. They're idiots. They're low IQ white folk. You literally don't like them. You would rather suck up to somehow this, noble savage that you see on the left. You want to suck up to them even though they're idiots and they're the thugs and they're the low IQ people. I mean, I don't even know if they're low IQ people, but they're uneducated. They're ignorant Marxists that are just like the kids, all the kids that have become Marxists. And I'm talking about all races here. This is not a racial issue. Obviously, the majority of people out burning shit down are white. They're little Marxist thugs.
Being indoctrinated in the universities.
Yeah. And you admire those people and you hate the truck driver and the cowboy. You think he's gross. The Trump, the guy who says the wrong thing, who's not ideological enough for you, but who just wants to freaking be left alone and wave his American flag. Oh, but he doesn't know why he likes his American flag, so he's a dummy. You're fine.
So we should vote for the left because the guy waving the flag he can't recite chapter and verse of John Locke.
Therefore, he's an idiot. Let's embrace Antifa. Because Antifa at least is Marxist. They at least think. Like, you literally have that attitude. You don't realize you have that attitude, but that's your attitude. So for all of you Biden supporting objectivists, you hate American spirit, you hate Americans, you hate American cowboys, you hate the whole freaking package. You want everybody to be a Thomas Jefferson. But Thomas Jefferson had a Sam Adams. And he had the New England soldiers.
The rabble.
The rabble, yeah. So what are you going to do with your smarty pants people who want to be Marxists? They're going to kill you.
Tarring and feathering the loyalists.
Yeah. So I just wish they would step back and see what they're doing and what they hate, actually, when they're so hating on Trump that they would sell out America and watch it burn. That's what they want. They want to tear it all down. And they hope to God they're going to be in a Galt's Gulch somewhere, and they're not going to be.
Well, it's interesting. Douglas Murray talked about how during the French Revolution, the emphasis was really just on rights abstractly, not on law and the political theory of what would happen. So when they overthrew, the thing just went completely out of control. I mean, obviously, and the guillotines came out, which is what's happening in America now. And here these guys are, they're in some sort of ivory tower rationalistic construct here, rather than seeing this is what reality is. These are the two parties, what they represent, and all that entails. And they're in some sort of like dreamland about teaching lessons and what's going to happen in 4 years. And, these are just non sequiturs. These are just like assertions without any support, without any evidence. I mean, there's no logic here. This is unbelievable to me that this is being put out and liked by anyone that considers himself an objectivist. It's totally irrational.
Yeah, it feels really out of touch. I think their analysis of why people voted for Trump and why people like Trump is just so far off. In 4 years, they've learned nothing, almost like the left. Like the left still hasn't figured out what happened. I think the smarter people on the left have, but the basic people out there that are just like so angry and their minds are exploding. They can't figure out. They think that people are voting for racism, and it's kind of weird, and it's propaganda. I do feel like the objectivists who see it that way, they really literally are only reading leftist news.
Yeah, they're very ignorant. I think they don't follow current events. They don't integrate political fact with political theory. I think they have a very sort of rationalistic view of how the world works and how politics works without understanding the people, the relationships, and, the facts sort of on the ground about what's really going on. And, they take these bizarre positions. I mean, to me, this really reeks to me of someone who has a view. He hates Trump, and he's coming up with like post hoc rationalizations for why he wants to vote against Trump. Not like, okay, let me start with the facts and like reason through this, and okay, this argues for Trump, but this argues against, and we should oppose Trump here, but we should, really support this here. But this is like the overwhelming problem in our country right now that we really need to defeat first before we can, it's not that at all. It's just, I hate Trump. Now let me come up with a bunch of like word salad, like rationalizations after the fact about why.
And they do bring up these issues of like free trade and immigration as sort of these fundamental issues. And I feel like when our speech is in jeopardy and our First and Second Amendment rights are in jeopardy, and I think that Americans on the right are being intimidated into silence already. I mean, of course they have been. It's Absolutely. Not even, I think, like it's a total fact. And in that environment, you want me to care about tariffs? Like, I just can't. I'm sorry. Yeah. Or like, yes, it bothered me when they spent $3 trillion on the pandemic and they want another 3. Like that really deeply bothers me and concerns me. But I also see that nothing is possible without freedom, basic freedom of speech and the right to defend myself. It's not even a matter of, am I going to be prosperous? It's a matter of when the thugs come to steal my shit, can I shoot them? Or can they can they just shoot me? Is my family going to survive?
Well,
and I'm supposed to worry about tariffs?
We're at the point of civilization versus barbarism, as one commenter
not
said.
Not only that, I'm supposed to worry about tariffs, and I'm supposed to worry about some hard luck Mexican case. I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to worry about the 6 billion people who want to move here at the expense of my family right now. Are you crazy? And my own daughter's ability to speak her mind and be white and safe. Hang on, I got gardeners coming with their blowers. Oh my God, just a sec.
They're coming for you. Oh no!
Of course, it's Wednesday morning, and I forgot that they come and
That's great.
With their blowers. And we're going to wrap up soon anyway. But so, I mean, I didn't read the whole thing, but there was another one put out by Peter Schwartz just the week before where he says, what does the Republican Party stand for now under Trump? Mindless xenophobic nationalism. At political rallies, Trump elicits passionate responses from people he refers to as my followers. When he declares that he'll build the wall, he's cheered. He says he'll make America great again, not by promoting capitalism, by expanding the power of the state and keeping foreigners and foreign goods out of the country. Like, it all comes down to trade for these people and the ability for hordes of third worlders to cross our border. Like, that's so freaking critical that our border be open. I mean, we're fighting for our basic freedoms. And is Trump the ideal fighter? Honestly, I don't think he's tough enough. I wish he were more ideological, and I wish he were more of a dick. I want him to be so tough. But he's not. And you know what? Like, when the riots were happening, I was one of the people saying, why isn't he going in there? Why isn't he doing something? Why didn't he, if he's so authoritarian?
Right.
He could have marched in there with the army and declared martial law. He could have done that, and he didn't. And that would have given him the chance to mess around with some of the leadership. And he didn't do it. And he hasn't fired Fauci, the corrupt dickhead. Or the guy who runs the CDC hasn't fired any of these people that we know are corrupt. He knows they're corrupt. But he's like, I'm not going to come in and throw my weight around like that. And maybe it's not that important to him. I don't really like the way he handled the pandemic. I think that the whole thing has been awful. But unlike all the Democrat governors and mayors and politicians, he called for no lockdowns.
Yeah.
So where's this authority? There's just no basis.
Who are the authoritarians? These people are locking people in their homes like cages, despite evidence, and they're burning down cities. They're encouraging people to burn down cities, to stand down police, and then they're arresting anyone who defends themselves. And they're accusing Trump of being the authoritarian?
Yeah, it's so weird. And honestly, even if he wanted to be, he doesn't have the media, he doesn't have Hollywood, he doesn't even have his own agencies. And we've heard recently he doesn't even have the generals. So explain how that's going to practically even happen. I don't care what his innermost dream is to take over and run and own the country of America, but it's not possible for him. He doesn't have the quote unquote following. He doesn't have that. And the majority of people who are following him were following him because he's fighting. And I think somebody said the minute the war is over, Trump's gone. We only need him because we're in a war. We're in a culture war. And people put him in place for that reason. An outsider who would push back on some of this stuff. So, okay, in the last 5 minutes, I want to hear about your boat parade experience.
Oh, okay. So locally there was a Trump flotilla where we didn't know how many boats would get together, but the idea was to get, this is happening all over the country, which is amazing. Because
I love that it's boaters. I love that it's like people with boats, which is to me just like people of property,
people
like
of property,
middle class.
Yes, totally. This is like a totally like middle upper class type thing.
Or even upper blue collar. They have their little fishing boat, right?
Right. It was that total spectrum of types of people from, a lot of the people were like, just fishing boats or even jet skis or small boats and big ones. And it was a real range of people who, and it was interesting because the first sense you get is that this is like real Americans. The kind of people that you're seeing, that they own their boat. Most of these people have worked their whole lives. They've saved money. They have some little toy or whatever, like a boat. They enjoy being out on the water. There's a sense of freedom there. And people were decked out in flags. There were probably, I'd say, 200 to 400 boats that showed up. At first, I didn't know how big it was going to be, and then it got huge. And the thing that really surprised me as we were going down the river, because we had heard that, the Antifa-type people were going to try and block bridges from going up or whatever. Rather than protesters, there were thousands of people along the shore that were supporting
That's so
Trump.
Cool.
And to me, they're braver than the people in the boats because they're on land. So they're there with, decked out with flags and Trump signs, and there was no sign of a protester. And this is for several miles down a river. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people lining the shore, cheering
That's
this on.
insane.
There were women dancing, like in red, white, and blue suits, like kind of doing cheerleading type dancing. And we were laughing the whole time, like, why aren't we burning stuff down? Why aren't we blocking traffic? No, people are dancing and cheering and it was a real sense of...
This doesn't sound ideological enough. It's just...
Well, we jettisoned rational discourse while we were
color
driving.
and dancing. Like any savage can do that.
That's right. This is pure tribalism. And I love the sign. There's a Trump store in our town. I'm hearing that this happened. You know, it's nowhere near the Biden. There's nowhere near the Biden store. And so there were the one flag I really like is the Trump 2020 no more bullshit.
Yeah,
and I just get the sense that that's people are just frustrated. They're sick of it. They're tired. They just kind of want their country back, and they see what's going on. And I think they just see Trump as sort of a bulwark against transformative change makers, that just want to burn it all down and erase our history and erase our culture. And these people are saying, no, we like our country. We like our lives. We like what we're doing. We're going to fight for it.
Right. And nobody says anything is perfect, Of course, I think the people on the right, it's always like part of the problem is the weakness is that you acknowledge, oh, yeah, there's problems and we could maybe make things better. And definitely if there's racism, we want to root it out. And as a result, they keep giving an inch and an inch and an inch and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they see that sort of moral high ground always to the left instead of just saying no.
Good people. They're good people who, if there's racism, that's bad. We shouldn't have that.
Where you never hear the left say, yeah, America's really good, but we just got a few problems here.
Oh, that's not what they say.
It's all bad. Everything about it is these people are sick.
You're right.
They're mentally ill.
Yeah. So I'm really glad to hear that it felt like a lot of people, like a groundswell, and it's such a cheerful kind of movement at this point, when you see when Trump people gather, there is dancing and flags and people are in crazy wacky red, white, and blue outfits, and
it was just fun.
It's a real fun-loving,
good people,
happy. It's as opposed to the Tea Party, which I'm seeing it's just becoming more lively and it's becoming bigger, and maybe it's because the gays have joined. I don't know, but it's just become a lot more fun.
No, these were really just good, hardworking, honest people. And to me, this is what we're fighting for.
Right.
This is what the Trump thing really represents, is just good, sort of, I don't want to say old-fashioned, but it is old-fashioned, just regular people who are sick of this.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Who are calling bullshit on all the nutty stuff that we see that no one seems to be able to fight against, whether, the corporations, the sports people, the Hollywood, all this crazy stuff comes up and they just, they kowtow to it immediately instead of pushing back. And I think this is the silent majority.
Right. People have been writing to me. I did a podcast where I talked about BLM was coming to Laguna Beach to do a protest, and I was freaking out. I'm like, if you burn down Laguna Beach, I'm really going to be upset. It's couldn't be a more charming downtown and a beautiful place to live, and so I'm just going to give a quick update on that because it's also similarly funny and motivating. They posted some stuff on Facebook, and on Facebook, they were just getting shredded. And they were people saying, stay out of Laguna, don't come here, Oh, I can't believe the racism. And then they would come and say, the racism on this comment section is just awful. And because you're racist if you don't want BLM in your town, which means you don't want it to burn down.
Yeah, that's racism.
And people were not having it. People would respond to that and go, yeah, if you just stay out. Oh, a bunch of white people don't want black and brown people showing up to speak. And it's just yeah, okay, whatever. Stay the hell away from us.
Exactly.
And so anyway, the BLM people actually posted a video of their pathetic 7-person protest. And there's this guy who's always downtown dressed in his Trump stuff, waving a flag. He was there. And then there's another guy who was just standing there with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, just waving in the wind, not saying anything, not doing anything, but he's in the background and they're yelling at him. And that was it. That was their big protest. So they never got anywhere with that. They didn't get a lot of people. I think they would have been mobbed out of town if they had tried. I think a mob would have gathered and pushed them out if they'd tried anything, because people were pretty upset about that they were even coming. So that was kind of crazy. I don't really get the vibe here yet. I haven't lived here long enough, and I've been sick, so I'm not out on the streets talking to people and seeing what's going on. But a lot of my neighbors fly American flags. So I think people like their country, even if they're Democrats. And this is a Democrat city. But I think the people here like their country. They're a little older. They're more the old school liberals. So
one guy in my neighborhood has a sign saying that he's voting for his 2 dogs because humans suck. Something about putting a counter sign with my dogs.
Nice. To, my dogs.
Should defeat his
Spot
dogs.
and Rover for president. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope my pred rant wasn't too outrageous. I can feel that I'm like in a pred rant. And I'm really happy that you were back this week, Doug. It was fun having this chat.
Good to be back.
And we'll do it again soon, hopefully. That's it for now. Comment. Let us know what you guys think. We love to hear from you. And we'll see you next time.
Bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace. Guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?